Okay, so I had this thing done. All I was gonna do is clean it up, and as I went to clean up this tab that was on here, lined up perfect and everything, I noticed that I had two of them. Here's one. Problem I have is, when I cleaned it up, it almost looked like it had some scale on it. Stainless don't have scale. I bet you $1,000 this is a piece of stainless steel, but it ain't. See that? It's not. So I'm gonna have to make one out of stainless, and I had to cut this one off, which just bites big time. Big time. I should have checked it, I should have checked it, but what are you gonna do? So anyway, here we are. Okay, so we're getting another kick at the cat on this bracket here. This is run number 2. So I made this out of something I know is stainless steel, and when I fit these up, I just put a little tack in the middle. That allows me to maneuver it this way, that way, and then I fit it on there, tap it in place, and then I'll come around and I'll do my tacks to hold it in place. One thing on something like this, that angle, it's pitched this way a little bit more, if you look on here. So I know on these inside corners, when you weld stainless particularly, it's gonna pull harder on an inside corner than it is an outside. So like I consider this an outside because it's just angled that way a little bit more. So I know the same welds on both sides, if I weld them both at let's say at the exact same time, this thing's still gonna move that way. It's not gonna stay straight. So what I'll do is I will start on this side and it'll start to move that way, and then I'll make this my second weld like shortly after it, like, I'm talking seconds here, but short weld, let it, it's gonna cool, it's gonna start pulling. By the time I set up over here and I weld it over here, it'll pull it back and it'll just about be straight to where I can tune it in. But if you go welding this full pass inside here, that thing's gonna be so leaned over, you're never gonna get it back. So you've gotta start on this outside edge and then come inside, so that it will balance itself out. So now on the rest of this, couple things. Big failure on the not having the stainless part here. Another thing to watch out for, make sure you're pulling the correct rod. When you get in these small diameters, just like 0.35, you can't tell what it is. You don't have that big stamping on the end of the rod like you do on some of these bigger diameters. So you gotta make sure you got the right rod on there. One thing I did notice on this, it's kind of odd, but these welds are slightly magnetic. I know it's stainless, but that 308 must be slightly magnetic. It's not a hard pull, but it does have some on it. So, because I noticed when I cleaned this weld up from the first bracket that was on there, I want to make sure I had all the carbon steel off of it. That magnet would still pull because it still had some remnants of that weld on there. So that is just something I noticed. Make sure you got a good ground, guys. As you know, here's what happened to my other one that I thought was cute. I tried to do some tricks. It worked great when I was running 37 amps, just doing the pipe, like 10 dip passes. But once I bumped it up to 60 and started to try to weld this bracket, funny thing is, I noticed it smoked. I saw some smoke come out of this over on this end. I thought maybe I was melting some of this tape on here when I welded it, like maybe it got in or something back behind there. And so then I just, I ignored it, but I didn't notice this till the end. Now that I've grounded it good, I just hate doing this because it tends to scratch the part up. I got to get a different clamp. So, but I did notice this thing's welding like money. Like it's night and day from what it was before. So it's just something to think about. The thing that bothers me most about doing this, thank God I put this little patch piece on here to weld this bracket to, because I would have had to have been welding right into this can, tearing that out again. But I don't want to put too much heat to this thing and distort this thing, so I'm just super paranoid of that, because once this thing's screwed up, there's no going back. You gotta redo the thing. So anyway, that's where we're at. Okay, this is it. The pipe is done. Everything's in place. I got the bracket on there, welded in. Looks good. It's nice and strong, lines up perfectly. I did take a little bit. I took a piece of this Scotch-Brite, cut it, and just kind of wrapped around here. I took some of the dinginess off of the. Now when they start up, man, maybe it'll burnish again, but I decided to leave the welds in here, the coloration. We can change it later. You can only make it this way once, so you can always, you know, run some Scotch-Brite on it or polish it, whatever you want to do. But I think that looks cool, man. I definitely wouldn't change these. When I did these, I was kind of dialed in, knew what I was doing. I'm still kind of figuring it out, but there it is. Now on to the next thing. Sean's gay.